My journey, my journey to discovering my love of music has been a long-winded, circuitous path. It took 4 instruments, hundreds of hours of music lessons, and thousands of hours of practice. My parents first signed me up for piano lessons when I was a fidgety 5-year-old. The first time I heard Für Elise was amazing. It sounded so effortless, so elegant, so majestic. After about a year of playing, I could finally play Für Elise. However, it never reached the level I had dreamed of. I couldn't reproduce the same gorgeous sound that drew me to the piano in the first place. Additionally, my teacher began to focus more and more on technique. My practice slowly transformed from playing beautiful pieces to mechanical, robotic scales. I quickly lost interest in the piano and quit at the age of 7. 3 years later, at the end of my elementary school days, my parents suggested I pick up a new instrument to keep me from being bored over the summer. After a short stint of trying out both the violin and the recorder, I decided to pursue neither instrument. Instead, I gave the cello a try. My first cello lesson was at Mandarin Strings. It did not go well. For starters, the thing was so heavy and unintuitive to hold. My left thigh would hurt from the pointed bout poking at it. Plucking the string sounded all right, but my right hand would hurt if I plucked for too long. And the worst part of all was the bow. The thing was so heavy and unnatural to hold. The proper way to hold it was an odd claw-like shape with my hand, but my thumb would hurt if I held it for too long. Honestly, I wanted to quit after my first lesson. But my parents, having just rented the cello for an entire month, made a deal with me. They said if I finished my lessons for the rest of the month and I still hated the instrument, I could quit. Begrudgingly, I accepted the deal. Within that 1 month, every single one of my complaints about the cello disappeared. My left thigh no longer hurt from holding the instrument. My right hand no longer hurt if I plucked or held the bow for too long. And I was producing a great sound from the instrument. In fact, I had mastered Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. After that summer, when I entered middle school, I realized I was ahead of the curve. I had mastered techniques that took my peers months to learn, and the school orchestra wasn't challenging me enough. I began practicing more and more with my private teacher, Mrs. Haynes. She recognized my passion for the instrument and recommended I audition for some orchestras. I made the honor orchestra for 3 years in a row and the all-state orchestra for 2. But the real reason I stuck with the cello was not because of any award or accolade I received. I played the cello for the pure love of music. It quickly became my emotional outlet. The passionate, depressing work of Shostakovich String Quartet No. 8 brought me to tears. Through his music, I can empathize with his despairing situation. The 20th century Russian composer shows the utter fear and oppression he felt from the Soviet government. The drastic shifts from the slow, lethargic first movement to the bombastic, energetic second movement is characteristic of his wild mood swings caused by the psychological stress. On the complete other end of the spectrum, I couldn't stop smiling when playing Bach's Cello Suite No. 6. The utter joy and happiness exuded in his music is unparalleled. It makes me feel like I've won both a math competition and a tennis match at the same time. For me, nothing is more honest and powerful to express my feelings than music. I can always find an appropriate piece to reflect my mood. But there was one piece in particular that stood out. One day, while I was unpacking my cello case, my teacher was practicing some repertoire. She played the most beautiful piece I had ever heard. I was shocked by how passionate and emotional it sounded while still retaining an uncanny elegance. The first time I heard the swan, I knew the cello was the right instrument for me. The best part about the swan is its simplicity. It isn't a flurry of random notes meant to impress or wow the audience. Instead, it's a simple, honest, emotional piece that paints a beautiful image. Its tempo is quite slow, but it always has lots of movement. Paradoxically, it has a melancholic, nostalgic feel to it, while still remaining hopeful. When I entered high school, I slowly let my accomplishments get to my head. I naively believed I was one of the best cellists in the state, and my middle school success would naturally carry over to high school. I began to practice less and less. I lost sight of the reason I played the cello in the first place. This time around, I did not make the All-State Orchestra. I was quickly brought back down to reality. At the beginning of my sophomore year, I joined Franklin Pond, one of Georgia's best chamber music programs. There, I would meet some of the best youth cellists in the state. I was not as close to their level as I once believed. At Franklin Pond, I had the pleasure of working with two nationally recognized chamber groups, the Vega Quartet and the Emerson Quartet. There, I would meet my current teacher, Mr. Wong, the cellist of the Vega Quartet. My first lesson with him was completely different than any of my previous lessons. Instead of praising me for my playing, he surgically picked it apart. He explained to me that if I wanted to reach the next level, I had to completely change the way I played. The main issue was that I was not paying enough attention to the sound I was producing. I needed to go back to the fundamentals and relearn how to play the cello from the start. Unlike the 7-year-old me who quit the piano, I had the maturity to appreciate his direct feedback. This time, I was willing to put in the work to learn how to play the cello properly. My long journey from the piano to the cello not only taught me how to appreciate music, it also taught me valuable lessons of discipline, hard work, and perseverance. Once adopting this mindful outlook, I began to see elements of the cello in everything I did. My tennis coach told me similar advice to my cello teacher. Even as a varsity player, I still needed to completely change my backhand because I wasn't working well. I needed to go back to the fundamentals and relearn the basics. My math teacher, Mr. Smith, also gave similar advice. He always goes over the formulas of the proofs we use in class, and understanding these proofs gives me basic knowledge and tools to tackle more complicated problems. By far the most important lesson the cello has taught me is this. Sometimes it is necessary to take a step back, to look at yourself and reflect. Just like Master Oogway from Kung Fu Panda once said, your mind is like water. When it gets agitated, it becomes difficult to see. But if you allow it to settle, the answer becomes clear. Thank you.